society where everyone says that in order to be a respectable person and make a good income, you need to go to college. And while it is true that for the most part, you probably should go to college, it's probably a great experience for you, and it can definitely help you to get a good career, I would say it's not necessary for all people. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be telling you how I think you can wisely choose a lifelong career from a financial perspective. So one thing about college is that the average student takes out $30,000 in student loans during college, according to the U.S. News World Report. So one thing, if you're considering whether or not you should get a full degree at college, one thing you can do is you could try to make some statements and see if they apply to yourself. They could go something like this. I can afford college. I'm okay with not having a steady job until I'm 25 or 30. I know which job I want, or at very least what field I'm looking for. Peer pressure is not a motivating factor to motivate me to go to college. So I would say if all of these statements apply to you, I would say you probably should go to college. It would be a great thing, it's very well suited for you, and it can definitely help you achieve your dreams and make a good income. But I'd say if two or more of these don't apply to you, well then, maybe there's a better alternative. Maybe you don't need to get a degree from college. So let's say you do choose the path for college. One thing you need to consider when choosing a job is you need to look at the job growth. So for instance, the fastest growing jobs, or two of them, are a nurse practitioner and a statistician. And one of the fastest declining jobs is a clock repairman. So it's really important whether or not a job is growing or not, because if a job's growing, it means it'll be bigger in the future, which means that it'll pay more, it might have more benefits, it might have better hours, it might have more holidays, many things like that. And if it's shrinking, of course, the opposite, you would get less pay. Oh yeah, it would be harder to find a job if it's shrinking. Maybe there would be less benefits. It might be more physically strenuous because of the lack of useful tools, because there's not a very high demand. Also, obviously, you should consider how much the job pays. You should consider how long the degree takes, and you should consider how expensive the degree is. So here's an example. According to Forbes magazine, the average elementary teacher makes $63,000 a year. According to the Waste Advantage magazine, the average garbage collector makes $40,000 a year. So while obviously $65,000 a year is quite a bit more than $40,000 a year, if you look at the 6 years of schooling, the more than $100,000 that an average master's degree requires, because many states require that you get a master's degree to become an elementary teacher. If you look at, and also it can become extremely mentally strenuous to teach 12-year-old children for your whole life. So let's look at a specific example. Say there's a garbage man, there's a garbage collector, and there's an elementary teacher. They've both been at it for the same amount of time. Well, no, they've both started their path towards that at the same time. So after 6 years, the elementary teacher has just become a teacher, and the garbage collector has been a garbage collector for almost 6 years, because you can become a garbage collector very quickly. So the garbage collector, at an average of $40,000 a year, after 6 months, has made $240,000. After 6 years, has made $240,000, whereas the school teacher is about $100,000 in debt. So I'd say putting this all together, between the two, it really just, I think it just comes down to preference between which of the two you really prefer. So, okay, well, let's say you don't choose college. Let's say you actually, so a trade, for instance. So there's many different kinds of trades, but one thing that they all have in common is that you have to work with your hands. So for a lot of people, this would really be the killing blow. But for others, this would probably be a bonus because a lot of people enjoy working with their hands. So an example of a trade that's environmentally friendly is a wind service technician. And actually, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's the fastest growing job in the US right now. So one other thing about trades is that there's usually 1 year of schooling before you get into the trade. Whereas in college, you might have 4, 6, 8, 10, even 12 years of schooling before you really have a job. Also, according to the San Antonio Woman magazine, the average master's degree costs $127,000, whereas the average trade school costs only $33,000. This is, of course, a huge difference. And one other thing about trades is that there's a paid apprenticeship program after the school, which means that a lot of the training is on the job. So I hope this speech was useful for you and helped you to learn about how I think you could wisely choose a lifelong career. And I really hope it was helpful for you. Thank you.